Well, good morning, daughter. How are you today? Of course, it's Dad. Let's see. March the 11th, Friday, 2022. I think I got that. I just had some hernia surgery a couple of weeks ago, and I'm feeling it, I'll tell you. Well, what I want to discuss today is the concept of self denial. Self denial, it's the extreme opposite of how our nature is. Our nature is always to cling, to pursue. Often we find, regrettably, that what we did go after, what we did work for so hard, actually never produced any form of satisfaction. You know, I believe that we were meant to run on God. There's a hole in us, and every time we try to fill it with something else, again, that's a form of, idolatry. When you covet, that's a false filling. And as a result, your life just plummets. Whereas if you take that empty hole and you fill it, you become very, very happy and calm in life, satisfied. But selflessness is an amazing concept. It truly is. It's not given very much uh, verbiage in this world because this world is very into prosperity. You have Joel Osteen and people like that who talk about, oh, you're gonna this and you're gonna that. God doesn't teach that. God doesn't. Preachers that say, pray, I need a new jet. Really, that was one idiot. 15 million bucks, and he got it. These prosperity, these mega churches, really, the truest church is one between you and God. That's a church, and then going to a local church, but they've got to speak the truth. And if you always have to weigh what you're hearing. In other words, be involved, listen carefully. You'll know the people you're dealing with by watching them when they don't think anyone's watching them. Anyway, so in regards to selflessness, Jesus demonstrated it continually. He didn't bring things with him. Oh, John, make sure that you get an extra, No, you never saw that. And Jesus is the kind of man who would silently, quietly take his only meal and quietly pass it over to you. I have a sister who I believe is very selfless and very sweet. And we know who she is. Your aunt, Tiger. Yes, hon. My dear sister. The sweetest. I have wonderful sisters. I truly do. But now getting back to the lesson of selflessness. Um, the opposite of love is not hatred, it's selfishness. Selfishness is the core root of most of our miseries in life. The concept of selfishness. It's really a very consuming, intoxicating way of thinking. It's very unhealthy. But yet we don't observe it or perceive it because the TV tells us you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. Go ahead, do it all, get it all. They make drinking look great. Yeah, no, no, not so great. Not so great. And this jewelry and clothing, all of that, very empty. And the scripture says, why do you spend money, on food on things that are not bread? And the word is bread. Why do you spend money on things that are not bread? Another part of scripture says, life is more than what you eat and how you dress. And you can expand that out to what you drive, where you live. Life is more than that. That's a very little thing, actually. You want to know the truth. The great deception isn't how Jesus is going to come a second time, it's that everything has been piled against us from the beginning. I believe that the great deception is when you find out everything you thought was correct is wrong, deceptively wrong. These are dangerous powers that actually want to conform our thoughts, and they conform our thoughts into thinking that more is better. You know, they want you to not be happy with who you are. Jesus says, if you have a place to lay your head and you have a meal in front of you, be content. I'm just going to check some notes real quick, hon. And I hope you're doing great. Let's see. Of course, glasses. Let's see here. Yeah, selfishness only breeds, a miserable life because you're always looking at some people with great disdain, and you're looking at other people with, you disdain those people that you see as lower than you. They're not driving the used Mercedes you're driving. And then the other side of the coin is when they look up to people and they cower like this and full of venom and hatred because they want what they have. They think that life is so satisfying. Those big houses, those people walk around mostly alone in those big houses. They're very lonely people. Believe me, the people that everybody thinks has got it made, they're the worst. They're the worst because they got what they thought would have done it and they found out it didn't do anywhere close to doing it. No, no, no. True, sweetheart, true happiness in this life is being content with those things that preserve your life and allows you to continue to think clearly, allows you to pursue things that have great value, scriptural things. That's the rich young ruler, he was destined to be an apostle. Jesus said, sell all you have and follow me, or give it all away. Jesus never said, hey, give it to my program. Then follow me. No, he said, give it to the poor. And then follow me. He said no different to James and Peter and those guys fishing. They just hopped out of their boats, left their nets, and came a running. He said that to the rich young ruler, and he said no, because he had too much to lose. Okay. Yeah, it starts early, being selfless. We're born very selfish. So, like, for example, if you have a child who's screaming and crying, let them cry. Some people say, oh, little Johnny, they bring him in the bed and he's 9 years old. No, I'm joking. But ultimately, it starts young. It has to be taught to be selfless. That's a very difficult thing. You never have to teach the greed in people's hearts. You never have to teach that. That's always available. And most people chase it. They love it. That's their God. They're getting the little things that they're getting in this life. Well, it's short. It shocks me how quickly things travel. It just shocks me. I'm in my 60s. I'm 62. Honey, it was the other day that I saw you born, I swear. But anyway, back to the discussion. So you could practice selflessness. It's a learned thing. It's something that you have to practice, and you can practice. For example, if you're at the grocery store and you see somebody that really needs to get to that register, and it's none of your business why, you could say, go ahead. And you can wait. And you could do it quietly. And you could look happy in general. So people aren't seeing you frustrated. Always demonstrate a quiet, calm presence, sweetheart. That's part of being selfless. When you're selfless, you have a calm about you. There's a calmness. There's an inner strength. When you decide that all that this world has to offer is garbage, you get a power inside of you that is discerned by others. You exude confidence. I do. When I gave up everything, I got everything. So for me, I couldn't be happier. Those in poverty are closer to heaven than they realize. So selflessness is a state of mind. It addresses the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet. A person who's selfless says, I'm glad he got that nice ox. It's a young one. He looks happy. Talking about the ox. He looks happy too. We have to look at anything that breeds that's decent and good and be concerned about it. This world brings people up to the front and leaves others in the behind. And they do that with animals. We have to be kind to them too. Anyway. So, we want to definitely be people of a self-denying nature. And that requires sacrifice. Now, sacrifice means you give with no anticipation of getting back. See, that's the tough part. This world here, and even the scripture often writes about the fact that, it's easy to give up a little house if you're going to get a big house. Sacrifice is when you give and you do not get a return. That's sacrifice. When the lady put in the 2 mites inside that tray for the collection on Sabbath, the Lord said, this one will be remembered. It was all she had. And he provided for her. The point is, though, To be selfless, you have to be willing to sacrifice, which means give what. Look, if you give something that you have, it's it's not a sacrifice. Uh, if you give something you don't have, or all that you have of it, that's a sacrifice. You know, if you a lot of Christianity today, daughter, talks about how hey, yeah, I did this and then I got this. That's not a sacrifice. That's a transaction. So when you give, as you practice, starting small, you do it in small ways, but do not expect a return because then it's not a sacrifice. So let's be selfless, daughter. What do you say, you and me? Huh? As we pursue holiness, we are all to pursue holiness. Justification saves us where we are as we crawl up to his feet, but sanctification is when the adventure begins. Remember, I've said that. When you pursue holiness, pursue it and be patient with yourself when you make the mistakes that you're going to make. Daughter, you and I are in this race together. You know, the great race. We have to come to see that this world really offers nothing. It's an illusion. Clothing, jewelry, housing, cars, power. These are terrible, terrible elements that are here to distract us, to want us to have nails that are 4 feet long. No, they're here to distract us, dear. Let's not let them do it. I love you, honey, with all my heart. Daddy.